Imagine fleeing your homeland as a child, escaping war and persecution, only to grow up and shake the foundations of the world's most powerful financial institution. This isn't fiction. It's the true story of George Soros, the refugee who became known as the man who broke the Bank of England. How does someone go from surviving Nazi-occupied Hungary to pulling off one of the most legendary trades in history? How does a teenager hiding from death turn into a financial genius feared by governments? Let's find out. Part 1. From Refugee to Wall Street. George Soros was born in 1930 in Budapest, Hungary, into a middle-class Jewish family. His early years were marked by a seemingly ordinary childhood, but that would change dramatically with the rise of the Nazis. During World War II, Hungary became a dangerous place for Jewish families, and Soros's family faced near certain death. They survived by living under assumed identities, using forged documents, and constantly moving to avoid detection. Young George witnessed firsthand the extreme risks his family took just to stay alive, and he internalized lessons about survival, strategy, and human behavior that would shape the rest of his life. Even as a teenager, Soros learned lessons that would later guide him in finance and beyond. Risk is unavoidable, but calculated risk is power. Survival meant taking risks every day, but the key was to calculate them wisely. Observation is everything. Reading the environment, understanding the intentions of others, and noticing subtle patterns could mean the difference between life and death. Fear is a signal, not a barrier. Danger was constant, but fear was a tool. It warned him, guided decisions, and sharpened his instincts. After the war, with Europe in ruins and Hungary under a communist regime, Soros escaped to England to seek opportunities and safety. He enrolled at the London School of Economics, where he studied philosophy, economics, and social theory. It was here that he met Karl Popper, a renowned philosopher whose ideas about open societies and the principle of reflexivity would profoundly influence Soros. Popper taught that reality is not always objective and that understanding human perception and how people interpret events can shape outcomes. Soros absorbed these lessons and later applied them not only in politics and philanthropy, but also in the financial markets. Eventually, Soros moved to New York and began his career on Wall Street, entering a world of numbers, trading floors, and high-stakes speculation. Unlike most traders, Soros did not rely solely on mathematical models or traditional financial metrics. He combined analytical skill with keen psychological insight, studying market sentiment, global events, and the behavior of governments and institutions. His approach was revolutionary. He understood that the market is never perfectly rational, that it moves on perception as much as reality, and that recognizing these flaws could be a source of enormous opportunity. Soros's experiences as a refugee, constantly adapting to uncertainty, reading people, and making high-stakes decisions under pressure, had given him a unique edge. Where others saw chaos, he saw patterns. Where others hesitated, he saw opportunity. These early life lessons, forged in the crucible of survival, would eventually allow him to execute some of the most legendary trades in financial history. Part 2. The Big Idea. By the early 1990s, George Soros had founded his own hedge fund, the Quantum Fund, and built it into one of the most successful and influential investment firms in the world. His wealth had grown exponentially, but Soros wasn't interested in incremental gains or playing it safe. He craved legendary trades, the kind that would leave a mark on history. During this period, Britain was part of the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, ERM, a system created to stabilize currencies in Europe by tying them to one another at fixed exchange rates. On paper, it was meant to prevent currency fluctuations and maintain economic stability. But Soros noticed something most others overlooked. The British pound was overvalued, and the economic fundamentals behind it didn't support its fixed exchange rate. Britain's economy was struggling. Inflation was high, economic growth was sluggish, and interest rates were under pressure. Meanwhile, the government was spending massive amounts of reserves in an effort to prop up the pound. Most investors assumed the government could indefinitely defend its currency, and few questioned the ERM's ability to withstand pressure. Soros saw it differently. He recognized that the pound wasn't just overvalued. It was a bubble inflated by political promises rather than economic reality. To him, the situation was a ticking time bomb, waiting for the right trigger to explode. But this wasn't a simple bet on numbers or charts. This was a bet on human psychology. Soros immersed himself in understanding government behavior, central bank policies, and market sentiment. He observed how politicians clung to public perception, how traders reacted to official statements, and how market confidence could unravel in an instant. He realized that the pound's weakness wasn't just a matter of economics, it was a matter of psychology. Confidence could falter, pressure could mount, and once the tipping point was reached, the entire system would collapse. He positioned himself strategically, preparing to act the moment the pressure became unsustainable. Soros knew that timing was everything. If he moved too early, the trade could fail. If he moved too late, the opportunity would vanish. But with careful observation, patience, and an acute understanding of both market behavior and human nature, he prepared for what would become one of the most daring and profitable trades in financial history. Soros wasn't just betting on currency. He was betting on the behavior of governments, investors, and the market itself. And he was ready to strike when the world least expected it. Part 3, Black Wednesday, September 16th, 1992, forever known as Black Wednesday, was the day when months of careful observation, calculation, and psychological insight reached their dramatic climax. Soros had been preparing for this moment for weeks. He had borrowed billions of pounds, positioning himself to sell them for German marks. He wasn't simply betting against a currency. He was betting against the entire market system that upheld it. The move required nerves of steel, precision timing, and absolute conviction in his analysis. As the day unfolded, the British government scrambled to defend the pound. They raised interest rates in a desperate attempt to attract buyers, and they spent billions of pounds from their foreign currency reserves to prop up their currency. Newspapers and analysts watched anxiously as the drama played out in real time. But Soros had anticipated their moves. Every countermeasure by the government only confirmed his analysis. The pound was overvalued, and no amount of intervention could reverse the tide. By mid-afternoon, panic began to ripple through the markets. Traders and banks recognized the inevitable and started abandoning the pound. Confidence collapsed. What had once been an illusion of stability was now unraveling before the eyes of the world. The pound plummeted. The Bank of England, unable to defend it, suffered a crushing and highly publicized defeat. For Soros, the result was historic. He had made over $1 billion in a single day, one of the most profitable trades in financial history. But for the British government and its citizens, the consequences were severe. Humiliation, economic disruption, and a forced withdrawal from the European exchange rate mechanism. The headlines screamed, "The man who broke the Bank of England." Politicians condemned him as a villain. Economists debated the ethics of his trade, and the public was both amazed and outraged. Yet, to Soros, this was never about wealth alone. It was about the power of insight, the importance of preparation, and the courage to act decisively when others hesitated. Black Wednesday became more than a financial event. It was a case study in strategy, psychology, and the limits of authority. Soros had demonstrated that one person, armed with knowledge, observation, and courage, could influence markets and shake even the most powerful institutions. The story of that day would echo for decades, cementing his place in financial history and forever changing the way the world viewed currency speculation. Part 4. The bigger picture. Soros' story is not just a tale of a single trade. It's a story that speaks to the principles of vision, courage, and understanding human nature. Vision. Soros had the rare ability to see what others refused to see. While most investors focused on numbers, policies, or short-term trends, he looked deeper. He studied the behavior of governments, the psychology of traders, and the hidden pressures in financial systems. He understood that the market was not just a collection of statistics. It was a reflection of human perception, fear, and ambition. This ability to perceive opportunities where others saw stability or risk became his greatest asset. Risk. Soros also understood that the greatest gains often come from daring to act when others hesitate. Every decision he made was calculated, informed by research and experience, but it also required courage. He had learned early in life that hesitation in moments of crisis can be deadly. In the markets, as in life, timing and decisiveness could be the difference between survival and failure, or between ordinary gains and historic success. Psychology, perhaps most importantly, Soros grasped the role of psychology in shaping outcomes. Markets are driven not just by data or fundamentals, but by the fears, hopes, and expectations of people. He knew that confidence could be fragile, that panic could spread like wildfire, and that understanding human behavior was as crucial as understanding numbers. By studying these dynamics, he could anticipate turning points that others missed. Soros' story is also a powerful reminder that life experience shapes destiny. His early years, surviving war and persecution in Hungary, taught him lessons no textbook could provide. He learned how to read people, assess risk under pressure, and navigate uncertainty. He learned that fear is a signal, not a barrier, and that resilience is built through adversity. These lessons became the foundation for his success in finance, philosophy, and philanthropy. Ultimately, the story of George Soros is about much more than wealth or trading. It is about the intersection of insight, courage, and experience, a testament to how personal history, observation, and an understanding of human nature can create extraordinary outcomes. It is a story that inspires, challenges, and reminds us that sometimes the greatest opportunities lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone willing to see them. From a refugee running for his life to a financial legend who rewrote history, George Soros' journey is nothing short of extraordinary. His story is more than just about money. It's about vision, courage, and the rare ability to see what others refuse to. It's about understanding human behavior, recognizing patterns in chaos, and having the nerve to act when everyone else hesitates. But it also raises a larger question about power, responsibility, and morality. Was Soros simply a brilliant mind who saw the truth before anyone else? A genius who turned insight into action? Or was he a ruthless speculator, exploiting weaknesses in a system to profit from the turmoil of an entire nation? History has offered both admirers and critics. Some call him a financial hero, a visionary who understood the markets better than anyone. Others see him as a symbol of the dangers of unchecked speculation, a person whose decisions had real consequences for ordinary lives. What makes this story so fascinating is that it's not just about one trade or one man. It's about the intersection of knowledge, risk, and human psychology. It's about how personal experiences, facing fear, surviving adversity, and learning to trust your judgment can shape decisions that resonate on a global scale. So, here's the question for you. When we look at George Soros, do we see the triumph of insight or the cost of audacity? Was he a hero of free markets or a figure who profited from the chaos he observed? If this deep dive into one of the most legendary trades in history fascinated you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more in-depth explorations of financial history, and let me know in the comments what you think. Do you admire Soros for his genius, or do you question the ethics of his actions? Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next story that shook the world, a tale of risk, power, and the human drama behind history's biggest financial moments.